Hello there, I am Arnold. You might remember me from some of the movies, the greatest movies of all time. The Terminator, Predator, Total Recall. Hell, even the Twins. Yes, what a great movie that is. Batman and Robin. Come on, everybody remembers my ice pants. What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. Now, I want you to listen to me very carefully. The Devil You Know is the greatest podcast ever. You will not find anything like it. Now, you're going to follow my instructions. You're going to get to the podcast. Now, do it, for I crush you like I did my enemies. I see them driven before me, and I had the lamentation of their women. Nyah!
What's up, motherfucker?
How's it going there, motherfucker?
Ooh, yeah. That was exciting. That was exciting. That was like a gangsta intro.
That was an opener. Yeah.
What up, y'all?
What's happening, yo?
I don't know how to be. I've never been very gangster.
Yeah,
I can't even say gangsta. It doesn't even sound right. I'm not very gangster is what I say, but
yeah, because you're white.
I guess. I think of it as I'm educated, but whatever.
Whoa. I don't know if we should lead off with that.
No, I don't think that's wrong to say. I
don't think it should be. It's not a color thing. It's an education thing.
Yeah, I mean, like certain people talk. They start off, these trends that are, popular things to say. And it just becomes a trend, but it starts off with a fucking idiot. You see all this shit on Facebook now about some cash me outside. It's some girl who was on like Dr. Phil of all things.
Oh boy.
And she was like a total I guess she was more like hillbilly / ghetto. It was a really weird combination. But I don't know. I have no idea what the episode is about. All I know is that everyone and their brother started this, saying this like memes of this girl saying "cash me outside, how about that?" And they spell it out like "how about da." And it took me several times to seeing everyone post these things, and I'm like asking people like, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah.
And what sucks is that becomes popular culture. Somebody retarded just made everyone else go, "That's great, I'm gonna start saying that all the time."
Yeah, and they have to spell it out phonetically so that you can understand this drivel,
Exactly, and that's how that's what I think of like gangsta. Is the
it's almost like you're half retarded when you act like that. But
it's like somebody. Yeah, I mean that's the sad thing is that there are intelligent people who are saying these retarded things because it's cool or trendy or whatever.
You had to go full retard, right?
They went full retard.
Yeah.
And so everybody out there is going full retard now on stupid things like that.
To go along with that, I was riding my motorcycle yesterday with a buddy who was riding his. He wasn't riding bitch, but he's riding his. We're riding around,
Sure.
running some errands, doing some stuff, riding around town, and we stopped somewhere. And as soon as we shut the bikes off, I'm about to take my helmet off, and this kid to the right of us gets out of his car, and his pants literally have a belt, but they are just above his knees, and he's got the longest boxers in history.
Why? Like
boxers.
how is that trend not over yet?
And I'm sitting there going, do you imagine if shit went down and he had to like defend himself? He would get dropped like a hot rock.
Oh yeah.
You cannot do anything but bend over with your butt in the air and get butt raped. That's all you can do when you look like that, you dumb ass.
Apparently that's what he wants.
That's what it means when you have your pants down,
sagging.
Around,
Yeah.
It was a prison thing saying, "Hey, I'm cool with a dick in my butt." So I guess all these kids that are doing it are cool with dicks in their butt,
and rightly so. They deserve a dick in the butt.
Yeah, pull your fucking pants up. You have to go full retard.
I can't believe that is still a thing. Like that trend should be over by now. I can't believe that it's still happening.
I think it was a law that you can't do it anymore. Right after that guy was on American Idol or whatever that was, America's Got Talent, saying pants on the ground, looking like a fool with your pants on the ground. I
forgot about that.
I think that was like, okay, enough of that. But they're still doing it because they want dicks in their butt. I don't know what the reason is, man, but it looks so dumb. It's so dumb.
Yeah.
It's as dumb as something like Juggalo. It's so dumb. What is that about?
I don't know. I don't know.
My face and throw soda at you. Oh, dude, you need to get a job. Get a job.
Fanta or Fanta? Fanta, that's what it is, right?
It's soda. Or pop, depending on what part of the country you're in. But,
it's like Kiss without the musical ability.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I wouldn't even. Yeah, I don't know. Clowns
or the creativity. Yeah,
like all of a sudden, clowns are cool. You're an idiot. Clowns.
You're a clown.
Yeah, you're a clown. All right, so there's our little rant. Let's start the show.
Yeah. All right.
The devils of past religions have always, at least in part, had animal characteristics, evidence of man's constant need to deny that he, too, is an animal, for to do so would serve a mighty blow to his impoverished ego. The pig was despised by the Jews and the Egyptians. It symbolized the gods Frey, Osiris, Adonis, Persephone, Attis, and Demeter, and was sacrificed to Osiris and the moon, but in time it became degraded into a devil. The Phoenicians worshipped a fly god, Baal, from which comes the devil Beelzebub. Both Baal and Beelzebub are identical to the dung beetle or scarabaeus of the Egyptians, which appear to resurrect itself, much as the mythical bird, the phoenix, rose from its own ashes. The ancient Jews believed, through their contact with the Persians, that the two great forces in the world were Ahura Mazda, the god of fire, light, life, and goodness, and Ahriman, the serpent, the god of darkness, destruction, death, and evil. These and countless other examples not only depict man's devils as animals, but also show his need to sacrifice the original animal gods and demote them to his devils. At the time of the Reformation in the 16th century, the alchemist Dr. Johann Faustus discovered a method of summoning a demon, Mephistopheles, from hell and making a pact with him. He signed a contract in blood to turn his soul over to Mephistopheles in return for the feeling of youth, and at once became young. When the time came for Faustus to die, he retired to his room and was blown to bits as though his laboratory had exploded. This story is a protest of the times, the 16th century, against science, chemistry, and magic. To become a Satanist, it is unnecessary to sell your soul to the devil or make a pact with Satan. This threat was devised by Christianity to terrorize people so they would not stray from the fold. With scolding fingers and trembling voices, they taught their followers that if they gave in to the temptations of Satan and lived their lives according to their natural predilections, they would have to pay for their sinful pleasures by giving their souls to Satan and suffering in hell for all eternity. People were led to believe that a pure soul was a passport to everlasting life. Pious prophets have taught man to fear Satan. But what of terms like God-fearing? If God is so merciful, why do people have to fear him? Are we to believe there is nowhere we can turn to escape fear? If you have to fear God, why not be Satan-fearing? At least have the fun that being God-fearing denies you. Without such wholesale fear, religionists would have had nothing with which to wield power over their followers. The Teutonic goddess of the dead and daughter of Loki was Hel, a pagan god of torture and punishment. Another El was added when the books of the Old Testament were formulated. The prophets who wrote the Bible did not know the word hell. They used the Hebrew Sheol and the Greek Hades, which meant the grave. Also the Greek Tartarus, which was the abode of fallen angels, the underworld inside the earth, and Gehenna, which was a valley near Jerusalem, where Moloch reigned and garbage was dumped and burned. It is from this that the Christian church has evolved the idea of fire and brimstone in hell. The Protestant hell and the Catholic hell are places of eternal punishment. However, the Catholics also believe there is a purgatory where all souls go for a time, and a limbo where unbaptized souls go. The Buddhist hell is divided into 8 sections, the first 7 of which can be expiated. The ecclesiastical description of hell is that of a horrible place of fire and torment. In Dante's Inferno and in northern climes, it was thought to be an icy cold region, a giant refrigerator. Even with all their threats of eternal damnation and soul roasting, Christian missionaries have run across some who were not so quick to swallow their drivel. Pleasure and pain, like beauty, are in the eye of the beholder. So when missionaries ventured to Alaska and warned the Eskimos of the horrors of hell and the blazing lake of fire awaiting transgressors, they eagerly asked, "How do we get there?" Most Satanists do not accept Satan as an anthropomorphic being with cloven hooves, a barbed tail, and horns. He merely represents a force of nature, the powers of darkness, which have been named just that because no religion has taken these forces out of the darkness, nor has science been able to apply technical terminology to this force. It is an untapped reservoir that few can make use of because they lack the ability to use a tool without having to first break down and label all the parts which make it run. It is this incessant need to analyze which prohibits most people from taking advantage of this many-faceted key to the unknown, which the Satanist chooses to call Satan. Satan, as a god, a demigod, a personal savior, or whatever you wish to call him, was invented by the formulators of every religion on the face of the earth for only one purpose: to preside over man's so-called wicked activities and situations here on earth. Consequently, anything resulting in physical or mental gratification was defined as evil, thus assuring a lifetime of unwarranted guilt for everyone. So, if evil they have named us, evil we are. And so what? The Satanic Age is upon us. Why not take advantage of it and live?
Okay, so for episode 65, John, we need somebody that's going to help us survive the apocalypse.
You're damn right. And who better to have on your team than Priestess Shannon Gausten, everyone. Hold on a second. Hold on. There it is. There it is.
right.
Yeah. So how you doing?
What's that?
I'm doing good. It's a little cold out here in rural New Hampshire.
Nice.
But,
New Hampshire. Oh, that's got to be cold. Ugh.
It's pretty good. I live in the southern part, so it's not as bad as, say, like the northern part, where most people, when they think of New Hampshire, think of. But yeah, it's pretty cold.
Nice.
Yeah, it dropped down to 60 out here tonight when I was walking the dog at night, man. Whew.
Can I
Ouch.
say fuck? Say fuck.
Oh yeah,
you
yeah,
can
yeah.
say
Totally.
fuck all you want.
We're adults. Yeah. We're not part of their system.
That's
You could throw it on the ground. So, what you been up to? Because we hear you're an amazing farmer, sustainable farmer, and prepper, and just a badass chick. What's up?
I essentially, we finally moved into a house, and my criteria was we have to have enough land for farm animals, and I wanted to know where my food comes from.
Yeah.
We all know that meat production is horrible, and if you love animals, it's kind of one of those things where if you want to step away from that, all the chemicals that go into them, all the garbage. And I was just kind of thinking, no, I'm tired of this. I don't want any more of that system. And if you're lucky, you'll have a grocery store or a farmer's market where they sell, meat from local farms, which I do have down here. But
Yeah,
they only really,
I've got that. Yeah, totally.
which I highly recommend spending extra money on.
Yep.
So what I did was I did a lot of research. I did know a few things. You grow up in a rural area, you do pick up on a lot of stuff. And I do have a lot of animal handling skills. I've worked with dogs for about 25 years, ever since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
So,
What are you now? 26?
I wish. No, I just turned 37 actually a few days ago.
Jeez.
Huh.
Yeah.
You don't look like it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No, thank you. So that's cool. Like, how did you get into that? Like, what made you decide, hey, this is me?
Well, I grew up in the woods, basically, and I always had an interest in survivalism. I read all the, My Side of the Mountain and stuff like that, and I always wanted to be that kid that got the hell out of Dodge and was able to live out in the woods and said, fuck you, parents, fuck you, society. And I grew up in a gun culture. That's what happens when you're rural. Everybody I knew grew up with guns, and we had guns, and I learned how to shoot. And I haven't really been hunting because I just don't get around to getting my hunting license. But I grew up around that. A family member would get a deer, we'd end up with venison steaks for months. Stuff like that.
Cool. Let me give you my address, and you can send me some of those things because I'll eat anything.
But it's one of those things.
Seen it.
You're an idiot. Oh shit. Funny.
Yeah, it's one of those things where on top of wanting to know where my food came from, I realized kind of early on that if something bad happens in this country, we're screwed. I mean, people really take for granted our electric grid, which is easily hackable, hard to fix. Big, the blackout in New York they had recently. Natural disasters they just had in New Jersey, Katrina. No one was prepared for that.
But I thought we're getting a wall. Everything's going to be fine.
Oh, I know. Kittens, man. And everything up. You just come to this realization, like, nobody's going to be here to protect my family or me. Because the first thing that's going to happen when the system, crumbles is there are people that are going to come in and start taking from you, looking to kill you, looking to pillage, looking to, take
Have
over.
sex with me? Yeah, totally.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those things where, well, no one else is going to take care of me. I've got to. So
Yep.
I started, we got a hold of some guns. We got a hold of a lot of ammo, a lot of non-perishables. The FEMA website, I think, says something like you want, 30 days worth of water for everybody. I mean, we have tons of water. We specifically found property that was near bodies of water. And we have like a little swampy thing in our backwoods, which, doesn't sound palatable, but if you need water, you can set up a filter.
Yeah, you get those survival straws, you're in business.
Yeah. And, I currently raising chickens, goats, rabbits. I want to do some pigs this year. And I do butcher my own meat. I do kill them and, do it all myself.
Wow.
My husband has zero interest in this. He's a city boy. I just, the farm, I'll do it myself, so I'll be out there, he'll come out from his office and I'll be out in the kitchen. Like there'll be something dead hanging from something. I'm gutting it. Hey, honey, how you doing?
I'm sure when the shit hits the fan, he's going to be more than happy you're doing what you're doing. So
yeah. And, the food's really good. I mean, we had, we had some, we had a bunch of chickens butchered this year. It was delicious. There's just a different flavor to what you raise on your own.
Oh, proud. Yeah,
sure.
Definitely.
And it's certainly, obviously, the respect that goes into it makes it that much sweeter too. When you don't take it for granted because you know what you went through just to eat that food.
Yeah, and it feels good knowing like whatever you killed was killed instantly.
Yeah. Plus, I've heard that if you have the chickens eat, like a good oil and vinegar dressing or something, you don't have to marinate the meat later on. No. Anyway.
I do see them.
I feed my chickens garlic.
Well, chickens are really weird animals. I gotta tell you.
I think they walk funny.
They're. I mean. Yeah, they're really.
Huh?
I don't know. I just totally lost my train of thought. I was totally.
Chickens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I found one that had, when you buy them in bulk, they're not, these chickens weren't bred to be long lived. They're bred to be like meat chickens and die eventually. So every once in a while you get like a genetic issue where the chicken just up and dies. And, I had one just up and die and I'm like, oh crap, I'll cut it up for dog food because you can't eat it at that point. And I brought it out and just put it down on the ground. I went in and got my stuff. I come out and all the chickens are like cannibalizing this other chicken already. So,
wow.
Yeah, they just don't give a shit. They'll eat anything, including each other.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. They're cannibals, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I didn't know that.
But yeah, anyway, I probably would be the person to come bug out with. I actually do have maps and plans. I carry, first aid kits, non-perishable food with me, weapons.
Yeah.
I'm a little crazy about that kind of stuff.
I don't consider myself an official prepper, but some people do because they see what I have, and I have hundreds of thousands of rounds. I have bug out bags for everybody. Is that a prepper? Technically, is that a prepper? Or I'm just kind of ready for if we got to get the fuck out of here.
To an extent, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say yes. And, I always worry about my friends living in the city, especially in New York. I just keep thinking like, God, man, if shit goes down,
yeah, because my friends, they know if shit hits the fan, get to my house because I can't carry all this shit, and they don't have, some of them don't have guns, so they know they have one here, you know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things, but it's good to be prepared, self-preservation is the highest law, and you might have heard that. And I think that's part of it. I think being prepared for things that hopefully will never happen, it's just a great thing. Survival.
Even just basically in your everyday. I mean, something happens to you, someone breaks into your house. I mean, I've been almost mugged twice, 3 times, something like that. And and are you going to call the cops with 10 minutes to spare? Are they going to get to you? No, they're not. I mean. Yeah,
when seconds count, cops are minutes away.
Yeah, it's
right.
I mean, you can't trust somebody. You should never put your life in someone else's hands like that.
Right.
Right.
And for me, where, I had I had a house broken into that I was staying at when my son was a baby. And, I didn't have a gun at the time. I didn't have a dog. And I remember being upstairs with just a knife, thinking to myself, like, should I move my kid and put him in the closet? If they come up here, is there only one? Can I stab him to death before... You know what I mean? Like, all these thoughts were going through my head, like, how do I kill this person? Hopefully there's not 2 people. Hopefully they don't have a gun.
Yeah.
Because this was also a little bit, before cell phones were everywhere, too. And just the feeling of, like, and it wasn't so much for myself, as a child.
The thing is I don't fear men. I really don't. But I will fear a woman with adrenaline.
Oh yeah, I mean, like,
and if you don't, you're dumb, I mean, protecting your child, forget it. You're like a lioness,
Well, that was the whole thing, and I kept thinking. I mean, it was very clear in my mind, like I will kill whoever comes up these stairs.
Absolutely.
Something scared them away, but that was enough for me to say I will never live in a house again without a gun, and because I would have gone down and shot whoever the hell was down there.
Yeah.
And it turned out, they caught who it was. It was a couple of drug addicts, and it was 2 guys. So whatever it was that scared them away, thankfully scared them away before they got upstairs.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I hear people that are very anti-gun and guns are dangerous and we need to get rid of them, all I can think of is, well, you've never been in a situation where your life was in danger.
Oh, yeah.
And, I was a street kid for a few years. I've been almost mugged twice. And a lot of that was, I learned to protect myself by turning around and bluffing. Because my whole thing, you act like a victim, you will be a victim.
Yeah, I've had this observation where anyone that's like against guns or I don't believe in guns and they're some of the most weak people I've ever met.
Yeah,
they roll right over when you get kicked.
I was never against them, but I never really had them. And I guess for the longest time, I never really felt the need. And I lived from Chicago to Los Angeles, and it wasn't until I got to Florida that I was like, these motherfuckers, I'm getting a gun. And now I carry, everywhere I go, it's a different world. But yeah, it definitely depends on, I wasn't against them, but I definitely now in a situation where I'm like, no, I want to have it with me all the time.
That's because you have all those alligators roaming around.
I ain't worried about the alligators.
I know.
I'll take a bear in my backyard any day.
Yes.
Good Lord. But yeah, I mean, it's the survival mindset doesn't have to be when you're already in dire straits. It can be like, how do I prepare? Because you never know when a survival situation is going to pop up. I mean, the 2 times I was almost mugged, I didn't expect it to happen. And I had to decide in that brief second, am I going to run? Am I going to be like, please don't hurt me? Or I'm going to turn around and say, motherfucker, come at me, bitch. And that's exactly what I did, was turn around and say, come on, let's go then, and act like a psycho and start charging at them. And of course, like after they took off in the distance, I took off the other way and got to, wherever was safe. And I was like, holy shit.
You pulled out the crazy eyes. That's awesome.
Yeah. Kind of it's a mindset. It's and I have a job now where, every once in a while I work with violently mentally ill people. And I get attacked on the job every once in a while, and it's just a matter of you stay calm. Yeah. I've been punched in the face. I've been kicked in the shins. Thankfully, I haven't been stabbed by anything yet.
And this wasn't consensual?
My God.
No.
Jeez.
So it's one of those things where, you just train yourself to have that mindset where you were going to dominate this situation. And I've done it with dogs. I have literally had... large, angry dogs look me in the eye and start snarling. Are you going to back down? Well, that's when you're going to get bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, you go forward and you're going to look them in the eye and you say, cut the shit.
Yep.
And,
I just say what Dracula said to hit the wolf. I just say, Strogoit, and then they stop. Works every time. 60% of the time, it works every time.
That doesn't even make sense.
That's funny.
It's a mindset. It's something, especially as Satanists, where like we are in charge of our own lives and our own, and taking care of our own selves, is to definitely remember that any time you're out in public. It's, walk straight, walk tall. You don't have to make eye contact, but sweep it around. If you see somebody that you think might be a threat, then you eye contact them and give them that, like, no, don't even try it, motherfucker.
Right.
It's something that has to be constant, and that sort of rolls into the whole survivalism thing. Survivalism is 24/7.
Very true.
Yeah.
You should start up a camp, like a survival training camp. Have you ever thought of that, or doing books or anything like that on the
for
subject?
women?
For anybody. Shit, I'd go.
Yeah, but it's cooler if there's for women and then men go.
I like women, but I like. I like guys, big bearded men kicking around.
I say that this kind of sounds like it could be a wacky movie where it's a camp for women, but me and John wear wigs and try to sneak in.
Let's do it. Bosom buddies. Yeah.
And beards, still.
I've definitely thought about it. I have connected with people here and there. I was part of a group that was coming together. We were sharing skills, and then it got political. A bunch of people came in with, we got to stop this abortion stuff. We got to stop this conservative. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not a conservative.
No, we don't have to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, we're not doing I'm not doing the politics thing. Like, I'm not a conservative. I'm not a homophobe. Just because I like guns doesn't mean I'm a Republican.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that the group kind of broke up after that because you get that. You get the crazy element in there, and it's not fun anymore.
Very true. Yeah.
When's the book coming out? Because your life sounds very interesting.
It's a little interesting. I actually considered the idea of doing a book loosely related on the time I spent being a street kid, which was interesting. I don't regret a moment of it.
We'll make it an audiobook because Dorian hates to read.
What?
What?
I wrote a book, damn it. I never read it, but
I wrote it down. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, definitely interesting. So, how do you feel that, before we get into it too much, how do you feel that this prepping and your whole mindset, this whole Bushido samurai girl walking the earth, not threatened by things, how do you think that plays into being a Satanist or vice versa?
I think a lot of it just has to do with, just sort of an understanding of the way the world works. People will help you along the way. People will guide you along the way. People will do things for you, but they don't have to. So you always have to be prepared to do that for yourself.
Yeah.
And especially in times where there's mass confusion or mass, trouble going on, the people that are supposed to help you are going to be off with their own families, and the reality is, especially being a woman, you are more likely to be a victim, of assault, of, even just walking down the street. It's sometimes a pain in the ass because men feel like they have to be, oh, hey baby, how's it going? And I will wear my PJs off the way to box of tampons at the friggin',
that's sexy though.
And I'm just like, I just want to be left alone. And there's some guy, hey, no. You never know when an altercation like that could turn into something else.
Yeah.
And
right.
Knowing that you can be a victim and you're more likely to be a victim should be the impetus to say, I absolutely refuse.
Yeah. What if he said, hey baby, that time of the month I got my Red Wings, what? No? That doesn't work? Oh shit. Anyway. Is that your dog?
Yeah, that's Buddy.
Not my dog.
That's mine.
Oh.
I'm actually surprised. My dog's looked up for a minute. I got 4 of them sitting around.
Do they own guns too, the dogs, or is it just you? They're strapped.
Is it so much to ask for dogs with laser beams attached to them?
Their frickin' heads.
They're a very good alarm system.
What's that?
They're a very good alarm system.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Anything happens outside, they're on it. They're on it.
Yeah, I got 2 dogs. One of them's a medium-sized little girl. She'll hide under the dining room table if there's thunder. I don't know what's happened. Somebody must have heard her. We picked her up from the whole rescue thing. But and I have this little one that's the size of my boot, and she will start a fight with anyone. She'll kick up some static.
That's usually the case. Ain't it?
She won't back down, and you're like, stop! What are you gonna do?
Well, with the dogs, it's the same as the people. It's not about your size, it's your energy, and you go forward. My little Chihuahua is the same way. He will go into a group of big dogs, very stiff, looking them in the eye. And
what's up, motherfuckers? Yeah, totally.
He just doesn't care. And, that's the kind of attitude you've got to have in the world. But I also find myself, as much as I come off as a hard ass, I'm always the person that ends up helping people, which, I hate people. But I look around and no one else is doing anything. God fucking damn it. I guess I got to go do it.
Well, when you want something done right,
Yep. And, it's Oh, I'm only one drink into the night, you know.
Really?
Yeah.
Starting to lose it.
Go ahead, take a shot. We'll wait.
But
I'd be interested in knowing, like, as you were just kind of just saying a little bit ago, that how you're kind of conservative and liberal, depending on what the issue is, what your views are on the chaos that is going on in the world right now. With
Jesus.
Here we go.
Well, I mean, one of the things you learn, especially when you don't have a choice in you know, what could happen to you one minute to the other, when you don't have a solid place to go or someone to, you know, protect your asses, you learn to read people very well.
right,
And you know, I that has never failed me. I meet someone the first time, I see red flags go off. I might be polite to them, but I know I'm going to stay a distance, and that has always served me well. And I look at somebody like Donald Trump, who just I can spot, you know, an omega male and an alpha male, you know, costume pretty easily, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's what his, you know, when he looks at someone like Vladimir Putin, who for all of his atrocities is an alpha male. He's a smart guy. He's
Yeah.
calm, patient, he's quiet, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I see somebody like him coming up against someone like Trump, and you know who's going to win.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Trump's going to kowtow. Yeah.
exactly. And, you know, for somebody who is, you know, I look at a lot of, you know, a lot of the people complaining about, you know, the snowflakes and the big babies and the entitled brats and stuff like that are the same people that kind of voted for this guy. And it's
Right.
very, you know, I don't have a political party. I don't believe in that bullshit. I listen to words. So I don't care if you're a liberal or a conservative or a Republican or Democrat or what you are. I
Yeah.
listen to what you say, and I watch your body while you say it. So it doesn't matter to me what somebody's political party is. But I look at the person, and he just, you know, the hair on my neck goes up. It's not, there's something not right here.
Interesting.
And, you know, I don't like anybody who tries to take freedom away from people. I am as atheist, obviously, and anti-religion as possible, but if he starts up on Muslim registry, I'm going to register as a Muslim. Because I don't believe in singling out any one religion, because that could easily be Satanism.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
very true.
I hear you.
I mean, if this was the 1980s and he was coming into power, that could be us. So
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's why it's funny. Like on Facebook, I'll see these first phasers or people that think they're Satanists and they're not, saying things like, "Yeah, we need to get rid of the Muslims and stuff," and I'm thinking, "You fucking dumbass!" Like,
Yeah,
they don't see it. They don't get it.
and as much as, you know, we don't like the religion per se, their protection is our protection. And
Yeah.
the minute it starts to erode, our protection is going to erode. And, you know, we'll see it for gay people, we'll see it for disabled people. Things are going to start rolling back, and it's going to get scary. And
Very
you know,
true.
I think a lot of it too is people. You know, it's easy to hate somebody that you have, you know, no experience of.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy to call the Women's March a joke. Well, I mean, if you're a man, you have no experience with, you know, being the one who gets blamed for pregnancies or being the one who takes all the burden of that. You know, it's you know, when you're not gay, you don't know what
Yeah.
it's like to have a family.
Yeah,
just all of a sudden.
just to strengthen what you're saying, I mean, you hear this all the time where, you know, the woman's pregnant and she'd like to get an abortion, and people are like, "Oh, she shouldn't have opened her legs." You know, the guy could have not have whipped out his incredible heat-seeking moisture missile either. You know.
right. Or
And,
pulled
you know,
out.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't wait for the day that male birth control is you know, the men can get over the little side effects, you know, and have their own birth control, so it can become more of a thing where men start realizing, well, I can control it myself. So now we can say, well, okay, well, how come you didn't control? Where's your birth control? How come you didn't take that today?
Yeah.
And it's just very easy to dismiss somebody who you have, you know, so who you've never met. I mean, I know several Muslims. I don't have a problem with them. We get along very well. They're very nice people.
Yeah.
Right.
My friendships run the gamut of all religions, and as much as I don't like their religion, it doesn't come between us because that's not what we discuss.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And a greater percentage of the time, their chosen religion was pretty much, conditioned on them by their parents and things like that. And sometimes it doesn't mean as much as it would, than somebody living in Afghanistan. You know what I mean? So
yeah, especially here from the United States, a lot of it is nostalgia.
Yeah.
If you grew up, playing with dreidels and lighting a menorah, you might do that even if you decide to become an atheist. I still put up a Christmas tree. You know what I mean? And as much as that pagan roots, that also comes from Irish Catholic Christian stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Irish Catholic. And I to this day, I mean, I don't mind churches, stuff like that, but
yeah,
it bothers me especially when I see people who call themselves Satanists coming down and sort of, oh, well, they're all feminists are nuts. Yeah, some of them are nuts. Some Satanists are nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's true.
Yeah, you're gonna find the extremists in everything, and instead of
yeah,
instead of looking at the extremists as the ones to, base everybody else off of, you got to look past that, because I mean, we easily could be seen as just the extremists, or the stereotype of cat killing, baby murders, or whatever the hell,
Right.
Yeah.
Making people understand that this brush that you're painting these other people with can also be applied to us, and has been applied to us.
Yeah, every time I paint, I get paint on me. So hey.
Yeah.
Analogy.
Oh, I'm nuts. Anyway, so let's talk about your Satanism. How old were you when you happened upon it?
I want to say I first saw the Satanic Bible in a bookstore. When I was around 15, I already decided that I was an atheist, and I already knew that magic worked. Because I had gone through the whole phase where I was kind of into paganism, but I'm like, this is stupid, this is just like Christianity.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, maybe if I just did spells without invoking any nonsense, maybe it would work, and I found that it did.
Yeah.
And I remember going through the occult section and I found the Satanic Bible, and I remember looking at that picture, and I'm like, no, this is probably just some more bullshit with Satan as the new, because it was, when I think Satanism back then, what do I know?
Devil worship, right? Yeah.
And we didn't have a lot of access to computers back then. It was still, they were still those big, blocky, expensive things.
Yeah.
So, years went by. I was a big fan of Marilyn Manson. And I remember reading his biography, and there's that guy again. It's the Anton LaVey dude. And, I did have a lot of respect for Marilyn Manson, and I was like, I'll have to look into this. And that's kind of how I came into it. And somebody eventually ended up giving me a Satanic Bible, and I'm like, I'm going to read this. And I remember the first night I read it, I think I read it about 3 times.
Yeah, totally.
I read it through once, and I'm like, I got to go through this again. And I read it through, and I just went through, I'm like, this is fucking awesome. Yeah. And I had no idea that a Church of Satan actually existed. It was a real long time before I even found it. And then, after that, it was on LTDD. And I wasn't disappointed by what I saw there.
Of course.
A lot,
yeah.
Awesome people, intelligent conversations. And that was the early days of LTDD, too. So it was very loose and open, sort of like the Facebook is now.
Yeah.
And people really know each other. I look back on this, and I've known some of these people, even if we've never met in person. I've known of these people almost 15 years now.
Right, definitely.
And it's brought me a lot of, irreplaceable friends who I consider to be family.
Right.
And I've had the wonderful opportunities of going to the conclave in 666 and the 50th anniversary, getting to know our high priest and high priestess, and actually being able to listen to stories that they tell of Anton LaVey.
Yep.
And just think to myself, like, okay, we need to remember these things, because one day, we're going to be the ones telling the stories that we were told.
Yeah.
Or
right. Yeah.
And all of these little, these conclaves and anniversary markers and things like that, we're going to be the ones telling people 50 years from now,
Well, not me. I'll be dead, but yeah, I hear you. Definitely.
I'm going to be there on the 100th anniversary. Damn it! I'm going to have
nice.
I'm going to have my little Android wheeling me up there.
Yeah, no, I'll be there too. I'll just be dead, but I'll be there.
It'd be an urn on the wall.
Be an urn. Who's that?
I'll be there,
That's
but I'll have no
Reverend
idea
Shaw.
where I'm at.
Yeah. This is John Shaw. We remember him well. But,
For the boys down under. Yeah.
he died of autoerotic asphyxiation.
And he loved it. Yeah. Totally. That's funny.
I'll be there, but just like every 2 minutes, I'll be like, "Where's John? Where is he? He said he was gonna be here."
Where the hell's Sasha? He's a funny guy. That's funny. All right.
I mean, we're essentially, that living history, that next step, because one day these people are going to be gone, and it's very important to remember that. And
Yeah.
I look at my own kid who's starting to kind of, he's read it. He's definitely an atheist, but he's kind of back and forth about it. And
Mm-hmm. How
I
old
hope
is he?
He's 15.
Oh, nice. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's kind of getting into that philosophy thing, and it's nice to see. And I hope he does one day decide he wants to go that way. But I mean,
That's his
I
choice.
just-
Right.
like-
Right.
and I, part of me is like, I just think, I've got all these, if he does go that way, I've got all these things from, the conclaves and stuff like that, gifts that I've been given, signed books, things like that.
Yeah. And stories of Anton LaVey.
Yeah, I have all these histories that I can pass on to him, which, I'll do either way as the only child, but, I would hope that it would be something that would be important to him because...
Yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah. That's awesome. How about other family and friends and stuff? Did you do they know that you're a Satanist?
I don't really hide it per se. It's just one of those, I'm an artist and I've always been eccentric and very much, I just say what has to be said when it needs to be said. So kind of my friends and family expect, I guess, a lot of weirdness out of me. And some of them have just kind of come into, my living room and looked at all of the stuffed dead things and the artwork and the weirdness and sort of don't even look at the Baphomet on the wall. Like, it's almost like so many other weird things in here that doesn't even register for the longest time.
Right.
They're like, isn't that a double symbol? I'll go into a little conversation with it, but because I am, my house is painted like purple and red on the inside. There's skulls everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
I think to them it's more like, oh, that's just some spooky stuff. Shannon's funny and weird. And my mother's acclimated to it. She was kind of, she was like, you can't raise your child without some kind of religion to fall back on. And I'm like, Mom, I got this. It's good.
Like it's a
Yeah.
net. Yeah.
And she's since softened to it. I mean, I've dated a lot of people from the COS. She's met them. They've all been wonderful gentlemen.
Right. Perfect.
For her to, when she actually meets these people, and she's seen photos and she's like, oh, who's that? And I'm like, that's the high priest and priestess. And she looks very nice. I'm like, well, yeah, you guys would probably actually get along with each other if you ever met.
Yeah.
So
My daughter still thinks Peter is Santa Claus. So his picture.
horrible.
It's the beard, I guess. Yeah.
And,
So that's cool. They don't treat you, differently because of it and harp on you for it. That's good.
No, I mean, I've just always been different. And, people have always wanted to be around that. I'm not trying to be immodest, but I am funny. I am weird. I do a lot of weird shit.
Yeah.
I like life to be fun and exciting. So if you're with me, you come along for that ride.
Fuck yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So it's kind of like people want in on that.
Yeah.
And to turn around and say, oh, you're a Satanist. Ugh. Well, okay, bye.
Yeah. Later. Later, dude. Totally.
And then
See ya.
that, so it's kind of like, do you want to come along for the ride or do you want to bitch? Because I don't have time for people who are going to bitch. So,
Yep.
And
Right on.
it's just another part of my weird house and my weird personality, I guess.
Don't be such a bitch, bitch.
You gotta do the vagina one before we end, though. I like that one.
okay, hold on.
Vagina.
There we go.
Vagina.
It never gets old. It can never get old. If you're sick of it, stop listening to the show because you're an idiot. But it's awesome. Amy rocks. We're gonna have her on again just to get some new sound bites.
Oh my, yes.
So cool.
Shit. All right.
So, did you get a chance to make it down to the event yesterday, Cardone's Nude Witch review?
I did not, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I heard it was amazing.
Yeah, I really do regret not. I really do now.
Me too. I didn't make it either.
All my friends, and I'm like, unfortunately I can't go, and I got all these like messages and comments like, wait, you're not going? And I'm like, yeah, I know. And, another problem too is I hate driving in the city.
Oh,
I get so angry, because in New Hampshire,
That'll do it. Yeah.
For the most part, we drive really polite. People take turns. You use turn signals. In New York,
what are those? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just, I start driving like an asshole, and my blood pressure goes up, and I'm rolling the window and flipping people off, and
asshole. Yeah.
I get so pissed off.
Ding 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 ding. Yeah, totally. Drives me nuts too.
Oh, and it just, it's better than Massachusetts.
Our next guest on the show is going to be Magus Gilmore, where he's going to reflect on this event and more. So that's going to be a good time. Make sure you listen to that one.
Well, I love listening to Peter talk. I mean, he could talk about the most boring subject in the world, like paint drying, and you could listen to it because he's that good at.
He could read me a phone book. Wait, what's a phone book?
I mean, it's sucking you in.
Yeah. I bought something from IKEA, and I didn't want to look at the directions, so I actually mailed them to Peter and asked him to read it to me, and it made it that much better building that little hutch. It was great. Yeah. No, he's awesome.
I always love being around other Satanists. Everybody has these like specific little things that they enjoy doing or that they become absolute experts on. So you go to an event or you go hang out with other COS members, and you're gonna go away with something.
Right.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
It's astounding to me the amount of talent and just passion people have for certain things.
Yeah.
I remember one time, I think it was probably one of the first times I ever had dinner, listening to Peggy talk about like the history of alcohol in the United States. And I'm just like, this is great. Like I would never go pick this up in a book, but now got all of this information now. And it's just one of those things where it when you're around that passion, it sparks your passion. And then you go home like, holy shit, there's all this stuff I can do. Let's go do
Dorian and I know exactly what you're talking about. We've had the same experience with them. It's amazing. It is. It's amazing. It's a drug.
Absolutely.
It's because you can't wait to get more. I need another fix, so let's go to the next event. It's just crazy. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get inspired by each other, so it works out well.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, really. I mean, I know I said it in another episode, but the church now and Satanism as a whole, it's exciting. What an exciting time.
Especially with the level of communication and just the ease of it. Anybody can publish a book now. Anybody can, print an artwork. Anybody can do a podcast. Can they do it well? But anybody can do it, which is great. And
we're hoping to do it well one day. That'd be great.
We're practicing.
We're so far we've got 65 ways to not do it. So we'll get there. Hello? Hello? Oh.
Is this thing on?
Yeah. That's fine.
No, it's always nice to see what people come up with and people do, and new people show up and bring new things to the table. And because I remember when I started, like things were very different. There were a lot of people that weren't very grumbly about things like heavy metal or all stuff like that. And now you look at this other generation now that we're sort of the ones that are more prominent. We're like, yeah, Slipknot. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. It's funny.
People posting pictures of King Diamond and stuff like that. Whereas, back in the day, people kind of like,
Yep.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool to see things kind of relax a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. Very cool.
Well, before you go, we have to ask you one question.
Sure.
What does Satan mean to you?
That's a good one. I know I've answered this a couple times. You know, I think I'm trying to answer it in a way that I've never answered it before. I would say it's sort of like the life force that drives the people that drive the world. And the world doesn't have to be the world at large. It can be your own little world. But it's that thing that only a few of us have that really just makes us better than the rest. Not necessarily because of the money we have or where we were born, what we look like, but because we use what we have to get what we want. That would.
I love it. That was a great answer. Great answer.
Absolutely.
I try.
No, yeah, excellent. Well, can't thank you enough. We want to thank you for coming on. You're now Devil We Know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Awesome.
It was great talking to you. Great learning about you. And until next time, everyone.
We'll have you back.
Yeah, definitely. So, hail Satan.
All right. Hail Satan.